Okay, this is an introduction to Capital Vending's new module kit for Rowe dollar bill changers. This has been vastly improved since our first version. A couple of the new improvements. This is going to work on 24-volt validators instead of 120, so that potentially is more safe and direct plug-in. We've also added several LEDs. I'm going to plug this into a machine and show you and explain what they do. Over here, when I have this plugged into a machine, there's actual test buttons. So you're going to be able to test this to do your troubleshooting so you can figure out if it's the machine, module, or validator. But basically what we've done with this, when you buy your kit, it's going to include a circuit board. And this is just a straight up plain Ethernet harness that's store-bought. So we had customers that would get this harness caught in the door. As long as you don't short the voltage to the lines, you might be able to just buy this and it will be a cheap fix to keep your machine going. Basically, here we have our circuit board is connected to your 24-volt pulse validator. And on our website, we'll give you your options for these where you can take 1s through 20s or 1 through 5s. But it's very simple and it's just going to have a straight Ethernet connector. In a future segment of the video, you're going to see where this right here plugs into the harness that originally went to the coin acceptor. In the event that you will be using a telemeter or a card reader when you're to monitor your sales or dispense tokens, basically this connector here is used exclusively for the USA Technology G9 and G10. There'll be a male and female connector. We're going to use the male connector, and that will just plug directly in. This will be tucked under the cover. And then this harness is specific to USA. The one for NIAX is very similar. So this plugs into this open connector. And that's to run to the telemeter. If you're using NIAX, this will be the only connector that's required. And then just as an example of how easy this is, there'll be an open connector here, and this will just plug into it. And so basically at this point, you can have your sales reported or accept cards. Just another feature to mention, on our older kits, we did not have the ability to do bonus payouts. We will custom program ship, so in the event that you want to take a $10 bill and rather than give out 40 quarters, give 44 or 42, if you want to accept and dispense extra bonus tokens as an option, we will do that. And basically takes about 1 to 2 weeks turnaround time for the custom chips to be programmed. But they would plug in here, and that is socketed. So if you are dispensing tokens again, and you're using this or with cash, this new kit, it is possible to dispense bonus tokens. All right, here's a quick overview of the 24-volt universal module kit. Today I'm looking at a BC1400. At this point, to save video time, I've taken out the hoppers, as kind of that's implied you would know how to do that. I've also turned off the power supply. I actually recommend unplugging the machine just to be as safe as possible. Basically, the steps that I'm going to take, we're going to be putting in the Mars validator here and gaining access to a harness that's typically behind the payout assembly. So the first steps we're going to do is we're going to remove the bill boxes. And these should both just simply come out of the holder. And once I've done that, I have access to this harness. So this is disconnected, so it's easy to slide this out. This will no longer be used with the new kit, so that will tuck down there. There's 2 thumb screws that hold the slide assembly in place. You're probably putting in the Mars validators because of all your troubles with the BA50, so most people would be very familiar with doing that. Next, I'm going to have you disconnect the harness that goes to the BA50. So this connector here, in earlier videos you show this is where the jumper goes. So we're going to connect a little jumper here with a piece of red shrink tubing, and I've shown that in previous videos. So to make this easy, I'm going to just push this low. And sometimes it's a little bit of a tug, but this piece will just kind of pull straight on out. So at this piece, I've removed the BA50 and the complete stacker assembly. And I'm going to kind of do another segment video showing how to update this and put in the slide plate. So I'm going to keep going on with the kit installation. So the next step, there's typically a 9-position connector that goes to the module kit is going to be located behind this payout assembly. In other cases, I've actually seen this 9-position connector, which I'll be showing you, tucked under this metal plate here. Regardless, I want you to take this out because with our kits, we do not want you to use the escrow buckets. And it kind of gives a direct pay, has a lot fewer moving parts, and it'll make the kit work better. So here, kind of have my socket set up, and I'll loosen these nuts. So you want to take both out, and then I'm going to set them so they don't fall. And so I'm going to flip this forward, and just the way it's designed, I'm going to push it to the right. So here we go. So I've got this out. And so my next step will be pushing it to the right. It might be a bit hard to show in the video, but on the right hand side, there's a wiring harness that connects to the to this assembly. So here I've disconnected this, and I'm going to show you what I did now. So this comes up, and I'm going to pick this up. I slid it over to the right, and it allows it to come out. So this connector right here is where I disconnected the harness that controls this. Again, in another segment of our video, I'm going to show you, like, we remove the flaps right here. So I have a nice little video where, you want to set this on a flat surface. That takes about 10 minutes. And then by removing these flaps, you'll have direct pay. With this module kit, it's possible to accept credit cards. If you have a 2800 validator, you can accept 5100 hour bills, do all kinds of bonus payouts. So we don't want the flaps in there so the coins don't overflow, but also fewer moving parts, less service calls. And so now the harness I'm looking at will have a 9-position connector. So this particular harness here, you'll see on the bottom there's 2 flat sides. And I showed in the earlier general video, this is going to connect to the capital vending module box. And once this is connected, basically we recommend you could put it down here. If you'd like, some of our customers I've seen, they'll hook this harness and bring it up here, and they can have the module box here so it's accessible. This new 24-volt module box has some troubleshooting LEDs under the cover. So technically, I guess my advice would be to run this harness through this metal clip, keep it all dressed very nicely, and we can install the module box here. We're kind of going to do that after we put the payout assembly back in after removing the escrow buckets. Just here's a quick explanation of how easy it is to install this slide plate with the Mars validator to replace this rear load transport assembly from a Rowe. Basically, this is the style metal plate with this flange that goes in the rear load changers. The rear load changers is more difficult to install this than the front load, so I'm going to do the installation instructions on the rear load. The front load changer, you basically pull out the BA50 transport, slide in the new part. This one, there's a bit of disassembly. It's very simple. The only 2 tools you'll need is a 1/4-inch nut driver and a Phillips screwdriver. So at this point, I've removed this from the machine. I'm going to work on it on a flat surface. Doing the conversion should just take a minute or two. Basically, when this is removed, the BA50 and the harness are still going to be in this assembly. So what we're going to do is slide this forward. There's going to be a little clasp here. So you need to push this, and this whole part comes out of the way, and this is no longer needed. So basically, the first step of what I'm doing, I'm going to remove this top cage right here. It's held in place with 2 1/4-inch screws, or 4 1/4-inch hex screws, and 2 Phillips screws. So I'm going to kind of slide this to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. So you're removing the front 4 pieces of hardware are 1/4-inch, the back 2 are a Phillips screwdriver. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. Here at this point, I want to be careful that it doesn't fall apart. I'm removing this 6th screw. So this piece comes up and away. So this is your old stacker assembly. So at this point, this is no longer needed. And basically, I have this piece right here. And basically, the final step, I'm going to remove this bottom cage, which will be, it should be, sometimes they're missing hardware, but there really should be 6. There were 6 hex screws when it left the factory. Is kind of working on these over the years. Sometimes they've fallen out because it could be 20 or 30 years old, but essentially you're removing this lower panel. So as you can see, 2 or 3 total minutes, and you're just basically simply removing parts. Very easy to do. And then now, just as an example, I'm going to take this slide plate, and this is going to slide down here. So this is in place. So the reason we had to move this panel is for the bill box. At this point, the Mars validators, they will have basically a 1,000 note bill box. So it holds 1,000 notes, and you have 5, 10s, and 20s, and that gives your changer probably a typical capacity of $2,500 to $3,000. So plenty of capacity once you update this. And then next segment of the video, I'm going to go put this in the machine, and most of the conversion will be completed. All right, and here's just the final steps. The conversion is almost complete. So this is the harness that we typically pull out of the back on the BC1400. On just as a note, on a BC1200 or the other newer machines, this is what goes to the coin acceptor. The harness in this machine, they just always typically tucked it back there. So on our module kit, this is going to plug in here. And if you look at the pins, 2 of the pins are flat. And basically, there are troubleshooting LEDs in here that kind of will help you fix any problems or diagnose what's going on. I kind of seen a lot of customers, they kind of tuck this here because it's close. This, of course, attaches to the connector on the validator. We made a little circuit board. This is just a store-bought Ethernet cable. We would have people that would drop parts or cut this in the door. So now in the event that that happens, you could just purchase this from a local store, keep your machine up and working. And the final step, so here is the cage assembly that's been converted, and we have our Mars validator here. So this just slides back down into place. This slides forward. So this flange right here hits the back door. So very important you have a rear door on your machine, because this kind of keeps it perfectly secure, held in place. This harness right here will loop around to the validator, and just for your collections, typically you're going to push the lever, you'll pull your bill box forward, your money will be in here. Again, this Mars validator, I mean, we kind of recommend a minimum of a $500 note box. There's a 7, or you can get it holding 1,000 notes, and this will vastly improve the acceptance and the durability of your machine. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to remove these flaps from a Rowe payout assembly. This is for a 2-hopper. The 3-hopper process is the same, and basically once this is done with the capital vending module kits or the board kits, the changer essentially has a live feed, so there's just far fewer moving parts to break. Basically what we're going to do is remove the 2 exterior E-clips here, and then there's 1 on this side, so all the 3 rods can be slid out of place. And then basically all the flaps and the springs will just freely fall out of containment. So on this top edge right here, there's 2 E-clips exposed. So just with the straight edge screwdriver, I'm just going to gently pop them out of place. So I removed the 2 E-clips, and then there's a bottom E-clip right here on this rod that holds the blue springs in place. So I'm going to pop that out of place. And once that's popped out of place, that released and it just fell freely. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just start sliding these rods, and all the pieces will kind of start freeing themselves up. This lower rod right here will come out of place. And as you're doing this, our goal basically is to, so you'll see, as you're doing it, the pieces will gently come out of place. So here's the large flap, here's my center flap, slide this down a bit. This one was a bit of a challenge. Sometimes if you just twist them, they'll come free. So as you can see, process is already complete. One very important step on the newer Rowe machines that I call it the walking blue dash, so BC100, 200, 1200, 1400, you cannot disconnect the harnesses to these solenoids. So do not remove these solenoids, because the power supply needs to see a current drop when it wants to activate these. So basically at this point you're done. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to program the Rowe board once the 24-volt capital vending module kit's installed. This would apply to a BC1200, 1400, or 3500. They all use the module kits. Basically, to get into the menu, I'm going to slide this switch up gently. Whoops. Slide this switch up gently, and I'm going to push this button here. And basically I'm going to get past the programming password. For the beginning, I'm not going to deal with MC because most of my customers use the non-MC mode. So that we're going to leave that off, and this allows you to have quarters and dollar coins or quarters and nickels or just all quarters or all tokens. This is going to be very typical when you start here, that the coin value might be all quarters or dollar coins, something like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the value of these, and all of these need to be T1. So once I've changed that, I'm going to press the center button, it advances it. I press the button on the right, the value button, a couple times so it's to T1. And now I'm going to get all three to T1. So that's an important step. The next, I'm pushing this button on the far left. And this is going to basically tell me what bills are accepted. This is just going to be counterintuitive, but I just need you to follow the instructions. So accept $1, we're going to click no. $2, no, and I'm pushing the value button to advance. $5 we leave as yes. $10 we set as no. $20 we set as no. $25, this is critical, this must be set to yes. I'm going to press the value button. 25A stays no. 50, that's absolutely critical, so this must be set to yes. So my next step, I'm going to go and push this button on the left, and here it's 25 pay, and this actually is what we want. The 25 pay actually corresponds to the dollar bill being inserted, and it's just the way that the module interfaces with the kit. So don't look at this as 25 pay, this is the dollar payout. So basically right now this is programmed to pay 2 coins from the left hopper, 1 from the center, and 1 from the right. So that's perfectly good. As an example of what you could do, now here's the 50 pay, and so the 50 pay, this corresponds to a $5 bill being inserted. When you put in a $10 bill, it's double, or a $20 bill is quadruple. So typically you would want this to be 20. So in other words, here I have it paying out 20 coins. The one good thing, that it's mandatory that you use the T1 values, but when you're doing those, if in the event that you wanted to pay out tokens, here if you were to advance this, like you can make this for a $5 bill, which is what you have here, pay out 21 coins. A $10 bill would be 42, and then the $20 bill would be 4 times 21, so it would be 84 for a $20 bill, get 4 extra coins. So it will have to keep that mathematical theme, but it is possible to do that. So here we have how many coins we're paying out, and these buttons here kind of change the payout. So here I've advanced it. So if I have 7 coins coming out here, I can decrement this to 0. And so right now I have 0 coins coming out of the center hopper. Maybe my hopper motor broke. I'm going to press this hopper button again, and it advanced. But again, this 50 pay is most of my customers are going to want this to be 20 quarters. So now that I've made that 0, I have 7, 0. I'm going to increment this to 13. So I'm getting a total of 20 coins for a $5 bill, 40 for a 10, 80 for a $20 bill. So just pressing these buttons, again, if you make any mistakes pressing them, you will have to kind of come over here and press this button to kind of get back to where you need to be. But the programming is that easy. In the event that you have a challenge with this board or programming it, or if you're too busy or don't have time, if you send us these working control boards and an explanation of how you'd like it to be programmed, we'll do it for a $25 and test. Capital Vending also repairs these boards in the event that they're not working for a $125 flat rate fee, or that was our price when this video was made, 2018. So in the event you can't program it, or if it's too frustrating, send it to us. If your boards go bad, we'll program it. But again, the board must be working, and for a $25 fee, we'll program exactly what you want and spend 20 or 30 minutes testing it to make sure everything's in good order. But when you send it to us, it's mandatory you tell us what coin values you're wanting to pay out. Okay, so I'm going to go over how easy it is to install the new 24-volt Rowe update kit. So here we have a BC3500, and this is one of our more popular kits. And basically, what I'm going to be showing you is how the LEDs in the box work, and it'll kind of dramatically help you with troubleshooting. And this is going to show you how fast this is to install. But basically, on this machine, I need to remove the bill box. And what I'm trying to do is access the cord that originally went to the coin acceptor. So here I've unplugged it. I'm just going to connect this directly here. And just give you an idea, two of these pins here have flat edges. So if you match them up to the flat edges here, you'll know how to plug it in, because it's a 3x3 square, so there's almost 4 ways it could be plugged in. So basically, this is important. This is the next step with this particular kit. There's this little jumper here, and this is very important. So what we do is, this harness right here goes to the BA50. All this is going to be coming out, but basically, very critical part of this kit, that this jumper goes into place. So once that's done, you've, except for programming the board, this kit's installed, and then of course we're going to mount the validator here. If you're familiar, Capital Vending made a 120 volt version of this kit. This is our new kit. The 24 volt version, it's just kind of got a lot of nice options. The better options I'm going to talk about is the use of these LEDs. As I'm turning this on now, this board takes 30 seconds to initialize, and the reason is it can interface with a credit card reader, and we just basically didn't want to have any noise on it. So what's going to happen here, I'm going to explain these LEDs as everything powers up. Basically, this red LED just indicates you have 5 volts from the host machine. This orange LED indicates you have 24 volts from the host machine. This LED right here basically is indicating that there's a good ground circuit. And what's going to happen here, after 30 seconds, this enable LED has come on. So at this point, this is ready to work. And if I go over here, when this is not working, this LED will not come on. So you have to set your dip switches, but basically when this LED is lit, and in some cases it could be green or multicolor, but when this is on, I would expect there to be a solid LED here. If there's not, then the issue is likely going to be the dip switches on your bill validator. So we have these LEDs. This helps us tell what's going on, and I'm going to just show you how I'm going to test it. There's 3 small buttons here. This top green button, when I push this, it basically simulates a dollar input, and you have to do this extremely fast. Like, you can't push it and hold it. It has to be like an electronic pulse. So when I push this, you're going to see this LED flash, and that LED should go off. So basically, this is how I know that the pulses are coming in from the bill validator. So when you're putting in dollars, if this is not blinking, the issue is with the bill validator. This being on green solid indicates that there's no problems with the machine. If this is off, you want to look at your control board. There'll be a status code showing, and then basically the Rowe control board for the 1200, 1400, or 3500, based upon the status code, will tell you what to do. So this second button down basically is the payout for the $5 bill. So now this is paying out the coins, and basically the 5, 10, and 20 trigger this. And this blue button right here, I'm going to go ahead and push this, and you'll see this blue LED come on. And basically what this is doing, this is actually testing if a credit card is hooked up. So when you're putting cash in here, if you have a credit card telemeter, all the money that's going in here will be reported. So from your office, you can go online and see the amount of cash here if you want to, if you in fact want to update to that system. But this button gives you the ability to push it, and then you could go online and make sure that the board is working and that your telemeter is getting the input, and that it's going to report your cash sales. So again, just these LEDs are critical in the event that you should be able to figure out what's going on. But if you have to call Capital Vending, the person on the phone is going to want to know what LEDs are blinking and then what troubleshooting you've done. Again, if this is not coming on, it's going to be a programming issue or an issue with your board, which you'll be able to fix. We would expect the orange and red, if those are not on, it's an issue with the power supply in the machine. And this is going to come on after 30 seconds, and we're ready to take money.